It's Sunday and it is Global Weather and Climate Day. Thanks for clicking on to the 50th edition. Hope everybody is well and enjoying their weekend. Of course, it's nearly over, but hope you're making the most of your weekend anyway. It certainly was a wild weekend weather-wise, wasn't it? An area of low pressure. It looks as if one of the deepest since 2009 for the month of July. Pressure down to 984 millibars, I believe it was, over Ireland. So very impressive weather it produced as well. Some of the strongest wind gusts in quite a few years across parts of England and Wales. We had also some incredible lightning during the course of yesterday. Here at the house, it looks as if we had a lightning strike very close to the house. The gap between the lightning and the thunder was barely a few seconds, and there was it did cut the internet here at the house until this afternoon. We didn't lose power. I think there was parts of the village here did lose power due to that lightning strike, but the internet certainly was off for a good, probably not that far off, 18 hours or so. So yeah, pretty impressive stuff. Heavy rainfall, of course, as well. We have seen parts of the UK record one of the wettest first halves to July on record. We've also had, the first 13 days of July, the wettest on record for Stornoway Airport. But interesting enough, within that first 13 days being wettest, we also had the second warmest day on record as well for Stornoway, with a temperature over 26 Celsius. But I want to look, of course, at, as always, the global perspective. And this is the year to date. So this is the first 6.5 months of 2023. Plenty of media sources would have you believe that the world is completely burning up. And quite honestly, folks, whether you are a believer in man-made climate change or not, it is getting pretty stifling with regards to listening. Every single event, every drop of rain now is associated with climate change, and it gets a little bit tough to listen to so often these days. But how is the year looking so far? Well, according to the CDAS data, this is off weatherbell.com, of course, you can see here, there is plenty of warm areas on that chart here, but there was also some very large areas below average for the year so far. Alaska being one of them, Western China, Mongolia, India, of course, one of the biggest population areas in the world, is actually running below average for the year so far. Africa, vast area, below average according to this. Much of Australia is below average. Western United States below average. We've got the majority of North America above average. We've got the majority of South America arguably above average. Europe has been, of course, very warm compared to average. Greenland, despite the fact that the surface mass budget is now decreasing, the NEO went from positive, which tends to allow cold to stick around Greenland thanks to below average heights here versus above average heights in Europe. We've seen that flipping around to negative. So, of course, when you have that negative NAO, you have warmer air over Greenland, generally speaking. But this key fluctuation in the upper pattern across Europe in particular has delivered one of the warmest Junes, if not the warmest, of course, according to the Met Office, to one of the wettest Julys, or certainly the first half of July on record. And it's all probably driven by the Magellan oscillation, within the tropics that has flipped the upper air pattern around. Also, the warm sea surface temperature anomalies, by the way, is playing a role in, we had very strong high pressure for, a good 4 to 6 weeks overhead, and then we've flipped it around. We're now seeing pressure drop well into the 980s and millibars for the July period. So that warm water, which of course worked hand in hand with above average heights, is now helping lower the pressure and increase the amount of cloud cover and rainfall over the UK and Ireland here, hence why we've seen such a big turnaround taking place. So let's have a look at the month to date and see what it's showing with regards to the temperature anomaly. So we maintain this below average across the north of India. It is wet here. It is cool here compared to average. But again, mainstream media will not have you see that. The spine of North America is below average. Of course, we're seeing the big turnaround. All the focus now being on the heat in southwest California. For example, our southeast California, the Four Corners, we're talking about record-breaking hot temperatures, but it was one of the coolest Junes on record in this region of the world. But again, you don't say anything about that. Australia below average. We've got Western China continuing to be below average for the year and the month so far. Mongolia is below average, despite the fact that we've seen record-breaking heat here, but it doesn't show you the fact, the big picture, the long-term picture. And I think that's actually more important than these snippet temperatures, that, you know, these surges of heat that we're seeing. Yes, but the energy distribution around the planet is very different to what the mainstream media would want to show you. Sections of Russia above average versus below average. You know, Northwest Canada, no getting away from the fact that it's hot here. We're also seeing a very warm South America, probably a reflection of the El Nino, of course, here. Current sea surface temperatures are as follows. We've got the El Nino that is slowly progressing thanks to stronger than average trade winds through the equatorial Pacific, is slowing down that warming process in the eastern Pacific. We've got a very warm water now. Yes, we've still got warmer than average sea surface temperatures surrounding the UK, but you notice the focus of that warmth is now shifted to the North American side. We've also got a little bit of cool now starting to show up. So we've flipped from warmer than average to actually below average, anywhere extending from kind of east of Bermuda all the way up to the north of the Azores and heading towards the UK and Ireland. I think that cool and average may start getting a little bit closer to the UK if we maintain this low pressure dominated pattern. And is that a little bit of a tripole showing up? Warm, cool, warm. Yeah, watch this space in the coming months, by the way. And also we'll be watching that warm water. Does it stick around close to the South American coast? If it does, I think winter will be warmer than average. But if it shifts a little bit further towards the Central Pacific and we have that tripole over the North Atlantic, bearing in mind that the easterly QBO is actually going easterly for this year, that would all point towards a very interesting 2023-24 winter. I will try to speak about that in the coming week, so stick around for that. So, of course, Europe, warmer than average across most of the continent, below average across the UK, thanks to low pressure exiting to the north. We've got that kind of cool, fresh northwesterly wind on the backside of that here. But a lot of focus being on the heat across the Mediterranean, Central and Eastern Europe. And that was exactly as forecast here on the channel back at the end of May. So yeah, it could be one of the best summer forecasts I've ever had if the rest of this July pans out and August, and that of course is a very big if. So it looks as if, according to Shran, we had one of the deepest areas of low pressure over the weekend since 2009, and even back in 2009, the pressure was the strongest pressure, low pressure that is, was actually offshore. So very interesting stuff, because we had the bullseye of lowest pressure over Ireland, as you can see here by a tweet that I put out 53 minutes ago. Had quite the dartboard low over the course of Saturday, that's for sure. This was the scene from my back garden, towering cumulonimbus clouds, and then of course all you know what broke loose after that cloud just started to empty. So very interesting stuff indeed. Stronger than average southwesterly jet stream at the moment here. This is a tweet by Dr. Simon Lee, talking about the stronger than average jet stream winds and everything. Probably all a byproduct of that warmer than normal sea surface temperature profile. So pretty interesting stuff really when you think about it. Lightning, we've had one incredible June 2023, especially over Ireland, and this is a lightning from the more active months in the last couple of decades. Look at Ireland during the month of June, almost completely covers it, and we've seen some very big lightning months during 2020, 2014, 2009, 2004 here, and yeah, it's quite interesting how much lightning we've seen this summer so far across parts of the UK and indeed Ireland here. So yeah, interesting stuff indeed. If I can try and get them back to my tweets, that would certainly help. There has been some very big extremes happening around the world at the moment. I will try and look at that in just a second. It looks as if we've had some of the biggest wind gusts especially across England and Wales in the last couple of decades across some regions of the country. So pretty exceptional wind gusts for England and Wales, in particular for July, widely 40 to locally 50 or higher gusts. And this is a tweet by our friend Dan Harris of the Met Office. So we've had the 56 mile an hour gusts in parts of Wales, 54 mile per hour gusts both in Norfolk and Lincolnshire, as you can see here. And yeah, we did see it back in 2015. We, of course, had quite a big comparison between 2015 and 2023. I think that has played out pretty well indeed. Also, very wet first half to July for the majority of the UK, most stations above average for this point in July. Several sites in Scotland and Northern Ireland have had their wettest first 15 days of the month in records of at least 20 years. So that's very interesting as well. Very, very busy lightning map, as you can see here. This is off Weather Online during the course of yesterday afternoon. So yeah, like I say, Stornoway recorded its wettest first 13 days, but within that, the second warmest day on record also. And we've had some incredible warm sea surface temperatures, by the way, in parts of the Florida coast, 98 degrees Fahrenheit, and the world record, I believe, was set. I can't remember the date, but it was in Kuwait Bay in the Persian Gulf. We had a temperature of 99 degrees Fahrenheit. But where is the records for keeping the skin temperature the lowest meter of the ocean surface? We don't really have records to compare with. So I would kind of slightly take that with a pinch of salt with regards to warmest ever and whatnot. So we've had a temperature of 23 degrees on the coast of Greenland, thanks to that negative NAO flip, completely changing the upper pattern, of course, across much of the northern hemisphere, in fact. So yeah, let's have a quick look and see what our friend Maximiliano has been talking about in the last week or so. So, of course, plenty of heat records to speak about. We had a new record for China. Of course, back in December 2022, we had a temperature of minus 53, China's all-time coldest temperature. And now we've seen the hottest ever temperature recorded in China, I believe, according to Maximiliano, 52.2 Celsius was achieved. That's 126 degrees Fahrenheit recorded in China. And we've also seen record-breaking heat across parts of Japan. Temperatures as high as 39.7, I believe. We also seen the UAE, or the United Arab Emirates, record its first temperature of 50 or higher, set back in the 15th of July. So that joins the United States, Mexico, China, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, and Oman, with the 50-degree club, of course. Some remarkable temperatures now being recorded in the southwest of the United States. We could see 130. It depends on cloud cover and whatnot, but we could see a push for the record hottest temperature on the planet this afternoon. Very hot conditions in Brazil versus very cold conditions in Argentina. Thanks to Maximiliano for keeping us up to date. Very hot conditions, central and eastern Mediterranean. 45 in Turkey. We had a low of 32, a high of 44 in Antalya, 44.6 in Cyprus, 44.2 in Crete and Greece. Terrible conditions in this region of the world as well. We had very hot conditions across, of course, Spain. We also had record temperatures in parts of the Canaries, temperatures as high as 44 degrees Celsius, even during the night, thanks to strong downsloping winds, the Fern effect taking place. June was a very hot and dry month for Mexico, and let's continue to play through before I run out of time. Very hot conditions north and south China, but remember, it's been a below average year and month to date in western portions of China. Tasmania, record warm temperatures here. Keeping in mind that most of Australia is below average, we're seeing temperatures into the 40s in parts of Siberia, believe it or not, but that does happen. The coldest temperature of the year across the planet, as well as Antarctica, of course, 80.5 degrees Celsius below the freezing mark. And like I said, we could see the hottest conditions in the southwest today. So I've run out of time as per usual. Do continue to subscribe, and I'll see you again